And we talked about in our past discussion how that these people were so important as like a community for us, and now to think of the way that they've changed the way that we think about things, or um, you know, the way that they've interacted with our work and our thoughts. It's really interesting. Um,
But what's really scary is when you move on. Actually, that's actually quite. You watch yourself change, you watch yourself grow, and you know what? You do grow out of your studio. You do grow out of like having a studio. By the end of it, like I think everybody's different because change is this constant thing that's going on. But yeah, it's just you know, where does your community go after, or where do you take your next step? That's a hard call actually.
well, and it's interesting to talk about where you're going to go with that, because you're doing your MFA kind of in two places.
Yeah.
So how does that change your community?
Well, I have, as we've talked before, I have no community here right now.
Yeah,
It's non-existent.
yeah.
So I'm on my own, and but it's interesting because a lot of my peers have gone to do residencies.
Mm-hmm.
They've moved away from the city
Mm-hmm.
because Montreal's a very beautiful place, but it's also a very transient place. People come, people go. They come for their MFAs, they leave, they go to different places, they take up teaching posts. So I've left for France, but when I come back to Montreal, there'll be a lot of people that are gone again,
Right.
and so it's interesting to even ask myself, where will I be after this, because I am doing my MFA in two different places, but I think that it's also it's almost like, I wrote in my post once, I said, it's like we've become adults. We're already adults in many ways, but we're becoming real artists. And we really have to make these choices of where we want to be, how we want to build our lives. Because, yeah, it is about an MFA, but at the end of the day, we're still humans, right? We still have to find where we want to be, where we want to make art, where we want to grow vegetables, or buy our fruit, and have our big kitchen or something.
Yeah, your big kitchen.
My big kitchen.
Um, yeah, well, and then it's kind of interesting to think about our virtual community, because I think right now, you know, although you and I have never met in person.
Yes, but we are part of a community
Right.
in
Um,
some ways.
yeah, and so that's an interesting way to think about, after the MFA, where you're going with your community. Um, the idea that, yeah, you're leaving this like tight studio grouping of people, and then out to where you want to buy your vegetables and such. But then at the same time, you kind of keep that community, or this kind of more vague, dispersed virtual community with you. I know.
It's actually interesting, like how we have become so dependent on Skype. We have become so dependent on, it used to be communication of letters. I mean, gosh, like.
I know.
When was the last time I sat down and wrote a letter? I can't even remember that. Or like, I have spell check. I can spell check things.
Yeah.
But it's just it's interesting how much time we spend on a computer to build up a community.
Oh, yeah.
It's really interesting because, I not only Skyped you, but all the interviews that I did with regards to this MFA, this open enrollment, was all done on Skype. And it's interesting how we have become this virtual community.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting idea, and yeah, it is, as a conceptual idea as well. So, and also a kind of publishing platform for artists, and because it's just you don't even need to make objects anymore. Sometimes you can just take a photograph of it and just put it up, or it changes the way.
Or I know so many people who do, work on the computer as far as like animations, or, draftings on the computer, and they don't ever actually build the object. They just, put the 3D rendering on the, somewhere out there, and that's it. That's how it lives.
And I guess I don't know, like, I guess I leave with this thought, like, has this become the future of the MFA? Like this virtual thing has this community become, like the virtual community? Like,
Has this become the future of the
we
community?
no longer need a studio, babe. Like, I mean, do I just go buy my fruit and vegetables and come back and voila? Like it's I don't know. It's curious to see what will change, because it is a way of keeping in touch, but things have become so dispersed. There's so many jobs that are in the rural area. There's so many possibilities, so much more possibilities than in this urban context. I don't know about in the States, but in Canada, definitely that is definitely the case where all the jobs are.
Well, I think, in the States, it's very, oh wow, it's getting very loud. Do you hear that? Not on your side?
I have no.
Ah, this is better. Whatever just happened. It got very fuzzy. Um, in the States, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Good. In the States, it's I wouldn't say that a majority of the opportunities are in the rural areas. I would say that urban is better, but not to say that that's the only thing. I mean, there are the teaching positions and such that are out in, middle of what I would call the middle of nowhere.
It's really the middle of somewhere, if you really think
Oh,
about
the
it.
middle of somewhere, someplace, somewhere out there. Uh, but those places are out there too. It's just different. It's so then that's when actual community becomes. In an urban area, you have that actual community, but then you can also have that virtual community connecting you to the rural areas and those other places. It's just a different way of networking now.
No, it's true, but I think regardless, I think community is important. I think without community, it just becomes very hard. Right. And I even, you know what, I say that, but yeah, I guess this would probably just sort of, you know. But you know what? I'm glad that I have you as my virtual community.
Yeah, me too. Actually, it's
I'm very glad.
We're building an international virtual community of artists and thinkers.